So welcome, guys. Thank you for joining our session and joining with so many. This is awesome. The session is called Leveraging Community at Gong, Building Lasting Customer Relationships. Personally, just quick personal note, I am super excited to do this session because one, I get to talk community and marketing with Nisha, who knows a lot about this, which is amazing. And two, obviously, I'm in marketing, so I know Gong, and everyone in marketing knows Gong. But also Gong, I would say, is sort of the pinnacle of like community-led growth kind of in SaaS, with all of the stats that you've been sharing and educating the sales community all the time. So I think there's an amazing story to be told here. First, let me intro Nisha, or at least I'm going to say hi, Nisha, and then I'm going to let you intro yourself, barring the singing and dancing we already did. What's more about Nisha?
Well, I'm so happy that you're all here today, and that we have people that showed up. This is wonderful. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, all of the things. So I am the head of community at Gong. I joined the company less than 5 months ago, and inside it is our community platform. I think our kickoff call was on May 7th. I just did the math. And we launched the community on July 21st. So I think it was like in less than 90 days, we got a community up and running. My background in community is, like many of you, sort of fell into the profession over 10 years ago. I was running a community meetup group on meetup.com for fun. I just wanted to meet other marketers, startup marketers like myself, who were just trying to make the product work. And I went to a startup meetup group, and I ended up running that, and grew that from like a couple thousand members to 15,000 over the course of 8 years. And someone at Microsoft approached me. I was actually in a meetup organizers group with other meetup organizers, and one of them had said, like, hey, I think you'd be great at Microsoft. And someone from Microsoft was like, hey, you could actually like do this as a full-time job. And I was shocked that was a thing, and had been sort of like in the peripheries of community and developer community specifically over the course of several years. And what's really interesting is probably I don't think I really was introduced to the community profession as we know and love it until I was at Salesforce. But even then, I had a very myopic perspective, like just focusing on developer communities, and really didn't get as much of an opportunity to just like soak in the genius that is Erica Cool and Holly Firestone and all of them, even though their entire team was like literally like two desk lines over from me. But yeah, just really, really excited to be here. I'm so excited to be part of such a wonderful and vibrant community.
Yeah, Erica is awesome.
Yes.
So I can definitely imagine. And this was just another proof point of why we should be listening to Nisha, because she actually got acquired by Microsoft. So, I mean, who does that these days? Which is awesome. So kickstarting our conversation, I think sort of this is a nice way, because communities, when I speak to communities, or you speak about communities in customer success or support, or obviously where it all comes from eventually back in the day, it's hard, or at least rare, to find a true like marketer's experience to community. And I think when we were prepping this session, you were mentioning that you actually felt also in building the community at Gong, but also in prior experiences, that you got to apply some, what you said were fundamental sort of marketing principles into community as well. So let's kickstart the conversation there. You being a marketer, building community, what do you take into account? Where do you start?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting. There are so many cognates between community and marketing, and one of like the biggest rules everyone always says is like, know your audience. And for thousands of years, we've always said, well, you can't market to someone or reach someone if you don't actually know them. And so, marketers are constantly obsessing over their ICP, like what is the ideal customer profile? Like what exactly What verticals are they in? How big is the company? What are the leaders we should be targeting? All of that is constantly in a marketer's mind. And when I started building the community for Gong a couple of months ago, that was an exercise that I was going through. Was like, what is the ICP for community? Like, who are the folks that we can target? Gong. I was a Gong customer, and I was using it when I was running marketing at a startup prior to this, and it really helped me with like messaging and positioning. But marketing isn't right now like the primary persona for Gong. It's mostly for sales folks. So for me, it was like kind of going through that same exercise and figuring out who we really wanted to target for the like the first rev of the community. Like everything is always iterating and growing. So
so how did you approach that? Who did you target first?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's really targeted to like sales enablement, Gong admins. I mean, they're the ones that like, keep the lights on at Gong for their company. So really thinking about, what would make the most sense for them. These like heads of sales, rev ops, these are like sort of the groups that I targeted. And like many of us, when we started community, like the best thing to do really is just interview them. So I got on calls with different personas. I call them high impact personas. So we have like high impact personas and then high volume personas. And I got on the calls with like high impact personas, and I just said like, hi, my name is Nisha. We're thinking about doing this community thing. Would love to hear more about what you think about community, how you think it will help your business, what you love about Gong, what you're getting out of it, and what more you want to get from other people. And basically from that, I sort of just like did, that was like the consulting hat that my first job ever after I graduated from college was as a management consultant. And that was my job. It was just like to go into different companies and I would interview them and figure out like, what are you working on? What are your current problems? And just kind of getting to know them, and then sort of doing the backwards math and trying to build a community for them and mapping that to like different features within Untitled and otherwise, and turning those on first, because we all know that there's a bunch of features that your company would like. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do in Untitled, and then there's the stuff that your customer wants. And so for me, I just was very clear that once I got to Gong, this was going to be weighted this much, and everything else just a little bit. And then we can just slowly turn the lights on in different places in here, but really like hyper focusing on those high impact personas.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you were interviewing those people, did you get like the usual of, we want to stay connected to your team, and maybe an easier way to get in touch with the product team or with the CS team or something like that? Or did you also get to have those conversations where people were saying, look, I think there's a real chance for Gong to do this and this, and that would help us even more than what you're already doing? Or did it help you build a strategy that was just for the community alone, also in terms of like content, etc.?
Sorry. So is your question was the information that I got from having those conversations that also contribute to what like the programs and content that we built within the community? Absolutely. And every single person I got on the phone with, I'm like, cool, you're a Gong community founder, like would love to, you're part of the soft launch. Here's a badge. Like, here are the things that we would love for you to do. Please like, share, post, like create a post. Was already thinking about like all of our beloved content calendars. And for me right now is still a Google Doc, but like a content calendar and like figuring out, what would be interesting content. The other thing is that without sort of like social proof, it's really hard to ask people to build, take time out of their day and, create UGC or that sort of thing. So a lot of the content that was built has been built initially and that we're churning out every week is from us, like 85% of it. We are still getting like questions. We reached a milestone yesterday or last week, someone in the community asked a question, and within 24 hours, someone in the community answered the question. And I was so happy. And I know all of you here probably have more mature communities than the Gong's community, which is today 40 days old. But I'm just really, I was very excited about that particular milestone, and hope that, I look at this in phases, right? So the first phase is, we're doing a lot of like content creation. Like the second phase is that, people will ask questions, we'll get some answers, and there'll be a little bit here or there. And then like the next phase is really people getting really pumped and really excited and seeing the value through like the programs, events, and all the different things that we do, and decide, hey, like, why don't we actually end up, like, why don't we share like best practices that like Gong hasn't even thought of? And that's the goal, right? That's what we all want, is that someone like discovers something about the product that we didn't think of. And
and it's definitely going to happen. I also love the excitement in the chat.
Oh, I'm not even looking at that.
I love that when you mentioned that first sort of small victory, because these are like the first initial wow moments in community, right? When something starts happening, people start engaging, beautiful things emerge, and you didn't even help. It's like this thing that was impossible to grasp before that. I think that's amazing. So did you say that every sort of first person that joined as like that joined the community program first, you turned them into founders to also give them that recognition of being like early adopters?
So I curated a list of who the early who would be part of the soft launch. So I basically asked, so I roll into everyone's probably like, where does the Gong community live? Actually, interestingly enough, while my background is in marketing, historically I'm in the customer success org, and I report to our chief customer officer. And so what I did was I reached out to our CSMs, and I said, all right, I want to make sure that we get a nice, we have like different customer success tiers between like commercial, mid-market, enterprise, and strat. And I asked all of our CSMs, like, please like nominate some community, some folks that you think would be really great for the community. These are the personas that I am targeting, and also the 10, 15 people that I had interviewed. And I sent them all an email and said, like, just let me know if you want me to add you as part of the soft launch. And then I created a group within Untitled where I interacted with them pretty much like every day or every other day. And I said, hey, like, check this out. Let me know if you have any feedback on this. Like, these are the 4 things that you need to do in order to get your founder badge, in order to get like the swag pack that we created. And basically it was just giving us feedback on a Google form. And then I like went through, I just was like glued and like tied to that every day. I was just like always in the same Google form over and over again.
Refresh.
It's like, come on, like, there's not. And so it was actually really wonderful. And by the end of it, I think there was 21 community founders who had really given some very important and helpful feedback before 2 weeks, I think. So the time in between the soft launch and then our big launch, I think, was like 3 weeks. And then our big launch was at our event, our thrice yearly event, Celebrate. And that was on July 21st.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I really like that tactic. We sometimes see it more often now, where people become founders, being the initial members of a community. And I think that's actually amazing, because it helps build some way or form of clout within the community, and also ties you to the community goal, or maybe just the community itself already, which is awesome. And those people will usually be more inclined to write content, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So whenever also our customers ask us, should I go for this big bang launch thing, or should I start small and do something else? I actually think this is definitely the right way to go about it, because it helps you build a solid base before you drop everyone in, basically.
Yeah, like, I just think, having a soft launch, people call it beta launch, and Erica Kuhl and Brian Oblinger actually had like a wonderful podcast on it. And it was funny because that podcast came out while I was soft launching, and I was listening to it, and I was like, oh yeah, like I should consider this, or I should do this. And it kind of felt like I had like professors that were like helping guide me through through that entire process. But my personal belief is, ship and iterate. Like it is so easy to be, waterfall method and of building a product and taking a lot of time and saying, okay, well, I want to do this and I want to like scope it out, and then I want to bring it to these people, and I want to get cross-functional alignment, and looking at it that way. And for me, I was like, I joined the company, I'm meeting people, I'm talking about the community. This is probably the most time I'm ever going to have before random other stuff like comes on my plate, and just launch it and see what happens. And, we all know as community managers that we're constantly changing things and updating, pieces of the community every single day. And it, don't be afraid, just get it out there and get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
Get it done, get it done.
Get it done. Isn't that always the case? Yeah. Good question from Laura. So is your online community inside of Gong? How does someone access it? And is it only for customers?
Yes, right now it's only for customers. That's the plan is to keep it a customer community. The way that people know about the Gong community is that we do have like integration within our product. I'm trying to work with the product team more to be more thoughtful about where people can find it within the product. We also, once we launched, we obviously launched at a conference, and all of the comms that went out with that, we've done that. Also, I sent out an email to all of our customers that were active, that have actually logged in and have been active, I think within the past 30 or 60 days, because that the community would be the most valuable to them. So that's sort of how I was initially raised awareness about the Gong community. A couple of other things is, when people generally go to the community, it's because they're looking for something, they want help with something. And the previous experience at Gong before community existed was going to the help center or going to the Gong Academy to learn. And so because I work very closely with Josh Lamarche, who runs support, as well as Steph Pellegrino, who runs our education team in Academy, we actually created links on the top nav bar of both of those experiences for the community, and actually have a little a widget there too. So really trying to create a circular customer workflow. We know that internally we've got different teams and different departments, and really, and even with customer marketing, but a Gong customer just looks at themselves as a Gong customer, not as I am a community member, I am an Academy user. It's just trying to create the beginnings of trying to create that one experience.
Yeah, we're calling that concept a customer hub or something, the one. I mean, it's a marketing thing, obviously. Hub. It's been used a lot. But I kind of like it still, because it's kind of the one single source of truth for your customers, whether they need Q&A or whether they need help center articles or educational materials or onboarding materials, whatever. It's all there. They don't need to look in different kind of things, have several logins, just one.
And I will say the other thing, and you did not tell me to say this, Remco, but the thing that I really appreciated about Untitled was federated search. It was really... It was really wonderful for us, and it was game-changing for us to be able to just go to the community, and if someone types in Salesforce because they're trying to figure out how to activate Gong in Salesforce, then they get knowledge base articles, they see how people are talking about it in the community, and then can ask questions, obviously, and then also see the courses that they can take in the academy to do that themselves. And I think that's really empowering, and that's the point. Is community is a tool to empower our customers, and I think that is a critical piece of it.
Yeah, I love that as well. That's awesome. Yeah, so I see a lot of chatter going on around the podcast. So indeed, it is In Before the Lock, the podcast that Nisha mentioned, done by Brian Oblinger and Erica Cool, who are amazing. So definitely check it out. So I have some more questions. Let's just put them in. I mean, why not?
Sure.
So when you first launched the community, this is a question by Madeline, by the way. When you first launched the community, how did you drive awareness initially and bring people to the site? Or what were your most successful launch campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a customer community. So figuring out, where our customers spend, where our customers spending time. Well, our most active customers were definitely at our conference. So like basically tying into like all of the comms that we did with that conference. Hey, we're going to launch this like really cool thing at Celebrate the Community. Like you should, find out about it. So like some teasers and getting folks excited. Of course, like after the launch, we made sure that the post Celebrate comms, it was in there. So that was a lot of like working with, marketing and the email team and the events team to make sure everything was in there. Also, like I said, I also worked with like the marketing ops team to make sure that we had an email that was sent out to our customers. I also equipped all of our CSMs with like a slide, a single slide that they can add to like when they're onboarding their new customers with a CSM talk track. That was very, very helpful. Basically just like getting into making sure that the community is now ingrained in the onboarding flow. That's something that I'm still working on. And so there's just there's many things that you can do. I think the easiest lever, especially if it's a brand spanking new community, is to just get an email out to your active customers so that they know that it exists. I'm also currently, as I mentioned previously, working with our product team very closely to figure out what are the proper like interactions with that a customer might have within our product, that it would make sense to like have like a little like a some kind of experience where people can say, hey, like this is, this conversation is happening in the community, or like we think that this article might be interesting to you. So just trying to figure out like sort of like the next gen of what that integration would be, rather than just like, a spotlight announcement bar saying, hey, like the Gong community is here. That's wonderful. But I think that there is, we're Gong, so we have to do more. So really trying to figure out how to integrate very tightly with the product.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. I see that people have been complaining about not being able to type notes so fast. So I think that was the right answer. That was awesome. So one question from Nikki, which I think is also good for this. We're completely straying from what we prepared, but let's just do this.
Yeah, this is better. I want to answer questions. Like whatever works for people.
Exactly. So what kind of benchmarking have you set up to measure success?
Ooh, I love this question. Okay, so I look at benchmarks in two, or actually maybe three ways. So the first is like industry benchmarks. I think there's a lot of industry information that we get from like CMX. Incited has, their Incited actually set me up with a like benchmarking report on like what to expect, like what percentage of people will actually register if you ask, send them an invitation, what percentage of people will actually come back a second time. So like industry sort of benchmarking that doesn't actually correlate perfectly one-to-one, because that's for like, a lot of that is for like mature B2B communities. And obviously with a 40-day-old community, you can't really look at that, but it's good to know, like if it's like 5% of people come back the second time, and you're getting 1% or less, like maybe that's an indicator that there's something that you need to be doing more of around engagement. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is community health metrics. So these are things that will come native with whatever community platform that you decide. These are things that we think about all the time. That's the easiest metrics for us to deliver on as community managers, right? So how many people are in your community? How many like active users? How many companies have activated the platform? How many people came back? How many people posted? Like all of those community health metric. And I should pull something up for myself, just because I'm sure many of you have heard about David Spinks's Spaces framework, which is like the third thing that I was gonna mention. But community health, I think, is actually can be measured through. I thought that I was cool and I invented something called cranes, and I call it collaboration. By the way, cranes is spelled weird, CRAINS, which is collaboration, reputation, answers, ideas, news, and sharing. So I basically prioritized all of those different pieces of like basically metrics, the daily metrics, to get real-time feedback that will help me understand the community health, and to help sort of dictate programming. So, and this is all basically maps very nicely into into the spaces framework. And I wish I could share my screen with you, but since I can't, I'll read how I think about the spaces framework, and also using the spaces framework for cross-functional alignment. And so, like for example, with the S in spaces is for support. So obviously, I work a lot with like the support and the customer success team. I'm lucky enough that our support team is like super amazing. And we sort of have rules with, these are our initial rules. I always say, like, hey, like strong beliefs loosely held. So like, I'm open to like changing the way that I'm open to the way that we are interacting, but we're kind of going through the standard within 24 hours. We want the community to answer a question between 24 and 48 hours. I have a Slack channel for people within for Gongsters that have raised their hand and said, hey, like I'm excited about the community. I want to be able to answer community members' questions. And so I'll post questions in there, and within 24 and 48 hours, they'll be able to answer those questions. And then once we hit the 48-hour mark, if no one says like, hey, I want to help with this, then that becomes a support ticket. We actually haven't gotten to that step yet because people at Gong are so awesome and they're like, yeah, I want to help. This is so great. I'm happy people ask questions. But I do like that exists because it's good to kind of have the support team to fall back on.
Yeah. I think, by the way, this is the part, sorry, I just want to emphasize that people should have taken notes here, because I think that is actually brilliant, because you're leveraging also the Gongsters, as you said, which also means that you're making sure that you do your stakeholder manager and you get management and you get other departments involved, and you get basically also the internal cloud that's required for a community, even if something eventually ends up being a support ticket because no one can help with it. I mean, I think this is the right way to do the process. That's awesome.
That's so true. And I think like, you know, people, especially after like the community launch, everyone's like, wow, this is so great. Good job. Congratulations. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I hardly did anything. Like, I just knew people at the company who were so, who are active and are really good at like one specific thing. And I just asked them, can you help with X? And is there a way that we can build this, whatever it is that you're already doing, and kind of build it into the community? And really they just need, like, I feel that Gong really just needed someone to kind of like connect the dots within all of these teams. So that's S. You know, KPIs that we're looking at that are just generally like percentage of case deflection. We talk about that all the time. So that's something that's helpful. Inside it also helps measure this too, and that just comes native with the platform, which is also helpful. Also remember at Salesforce, I think 20 views of a question actually counted as a case deflection. I don't know how that number came about exactly, but I think that with a little bit of like trial and error, you can kind of figure that out. The P for product. So of course, like this is a lot, like the goal of this is really to like gather feedback and also share information about the product, right? Like what's new, what's happening.
Exactly.
Release notes. We do a product buzz newsletter. We have a webinar. We do tons and tons of stuff. But how do we capture that?
Yeah, exactly.
And like the number of ideas. Did you have something you wanted to say about that, Remco?
Well, I have like 15 things, but we have about a minute left. So I want to say,
oh my gosh, are we done already?
I know it's annoying.
Oh,
I want to continue.
Oh goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Okay.
I know. So there's two things I want to say. So one, as we strayed from our initial conversation, etc., and I already told you that I want to do a longer conversation about this. So I want to promise people that we're going to record something that is longer and we'll cover everything else that we also initially planned to cover, because I think this is gold. And then number two, maybe as a final question, so what's the next step for you now? You launched 40 days ago. You've seen your first sort of wow moments. You got your first customers in there. So what's the next like 2-3 months look like?
Yeah, so one of Gong's operating principles is want more. So we want more cross-functional alignment, more engagement, more community members, more everything. I'm actually hiring our first community manager who will be doing a lot of like programming and moderation, and really looking for someone that has experience. If you have experience with Untitled, that's great. If you don't, totally fine. There's just a lot of really awesome things that we're trying to do, and I'm so pumped about it. CMX also asked me if I would teach a master class on October 12th on how to build and launch a community in 90 days.
Nice.
So that's something as well to just kind of share. So, and also if you have any other ideas or thoughts around anything that I said, and also any feedback, I'm still learning. I'm always learning. I don't, you all probably know 50 times more about community than I do. So please, if you thought of something, shoot me a note. Would love to get your thoughts. And I'll just put my email in the chat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that and for the session. So I want to very quickly echo Katie. You are seriously amazing. Also, thank you, Katie, for saying so. This has been super cool. And like I said, I wish we had longer than 30 minutes, but we don't. So let's just make sure to get something done as soon as possible to help all these people out. They seem to be excited. And for now, the rest of you enjoy the rest of the CMX conference.
Yes. And I leave you with this dance move.
Oh yeah, I can't do that one. So I'll just do this again. Can't do that.
All righty. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.